3, here we go. Hello and welcome to another workshop, Big Mish Movement Workshop, here today to discuss sleeping habits. How can we improve our sleeping habits and what are some of the things that are going wrong? So sleep is incredibly important. We are spending a portion of our life, or a third of our life, sleeping. It is how we rest, recover. It is a huge portion of how we de-stress ourselves, but also by having bad sleep patterns, you're gonna induce more stress. So it's like this cycle. Basically, you know, it's a part of being healthy per se, even. Just like we were taught to work out, and we were taught to eat right. Well, another thing is we have to sleep well. And sometimes we have to feed ourselves good habits that will fuel our better sleep patterns. This is usually more so aimed at people over the age of 30. That's usually when the mind starts to take over and have a little bit more influence over our bodies. When you're younger and, you know, running around all day and being more active, it is easier to fall asleep, and it is also easier to get very poor sleep and continue to function the next day. All that will slow down after the age of 30. But even then, after the age of 30, it doesn't necessarily matter about activity levels as much. Sure, that can play a part, but usually it also matters what goes on up here. What's going through your mind? How much stress are you going through? Are you really on the go? Are you somebody that just has to get a million things done every day and is super driven and has many things planned for the next day? All of that is your brain constantly working, and your brain doesn't exactly know how to just sleep. Just because of the whole sort of almost cliche saying of when you sleep when you're dead, and go get your chasing dreams. You know, people who chase dreams don't have time for sleep. And obviously certain people who are chasing their dreams don't have lots of time for sleep, and even mothers don't have lots of time for sleep. That being said, it is so important that when we do sleep, we're treating our body in the best way. So that's what I'm here to talk about, is how can we set ourselves up for a really good, nice, good quality, some good quality sleep, okay? Also, if you're an athlete, this is gonna be hugely important for muscle recovery. And don't think that athletes are exempt from this either, because we've found lately, or I've found that basketball players in particular have a hard time of going to sleep after games. And this is bearing in mind they've had a morning practice, pre-game workout, and they've played a game, and they're struggling to go to sleep. It's not a physical thing at that point, it is a mental thing. A lot of them probably are re-watching the game highlights or reassessing the game in their head, probably over-analyzing mistakes, or even if they've had a great game, probably replaying all the great moments in their head. Yeah, adrenaline is a huge factor as well. So, you know, it doesn't really matter if you're, a desk jockey or an athlete. People have a hard time sleeping, and believe me, it is far more mental than physical. However, with that being said, there are things we want to do that will influence the mental, that allow us to sleep better. And usually that's the things that we are missing. But anyway, let's talk about sleep setting. How do we set our sleep? And obviously, if you don't have a comfortable setting, that's unfortunate, but try to make it as comfortable as possible for yourself, because that is what we want to do, is create our own little nice nest. But let's pay attention to certain things. Minimal light is always recommended by science. Dark as possible, blackout, the blackout curtains is the best, so that it's just easier to fall asleep. Now, if you're somebody that wants a night light or wants to fall asleep with the TV on, or if you notice that, I have a fish tank back there, I don't have that in my room, but light, or blue light in particular, has been known to disrupt sleep pattern, or when you're trying to sleep, and therefore if you have a TV on, that's not going to do you any favors either. That's lots of different colors, and blues will be included there. So just be mindful that darker room is always better for sleep. That's the first thing you want to keep in mind. Second thing is temperature. Cooler rooms are better, particularly when we're wrapped up in blankets throughout the night. We'll probably generate some body heat and we'll probably break into some sweat maybe. I tend to, and that will wake us up because we're not in comfort. We're quite discomfortable and whatnot. And women, obviously, you know, monthly cycles as well with temperature fluctuations. So it's recommended to be more on the colder side. And therefore you can always bring on more blankets. Personally, I even like to be wrapped up heavy in heavier blankets. I do not like to be warm. I get warm easily, but I like to be wrapped up in blankets, and therefore I also enjoy sleeping in a cooler room. I sleep better. Whatever you want for blankets, whether you want thin, heavy, do what's comfortable for you. But speaking of cold, it is also recommended to have a fan going in your room. 2 reasons. A, it circulates nice cool air. B, the white noise factor helps drown out those little extra noises and sounds that going on throughout the night. People snoring, cars driving, sirens, police, ambulance, car alarms, whatever, you name it. That little white noise from the fan just helps sort of keep that static tone that just makes it actually a little bit harder, has been proved to make it a little bit easier to fall asleep than just a bare silence, which might be a little bit harder if you're struggling and then you're hearing all these little off noises. These are recommendations, not bylaws. Try it, and if it works for you, you know, just keep doing it. I find that most of these have actually worked for me as well. Another big important one is to have pillows for your knees. Not pillows for your head, but pillows for your knees. Your head should obviously be on pillows, not too heavy, not too stacked, not having nothing is not going to be good. Just having something to keep a neutral head is optimal. So firm pillows are usually best. But something for the knees is very important. The optimal sleeping positions, well, it's best if you can sleep on your back, and if you're gonna do so, it is definitely best to put a big stack or a big pillow or a couple of pillows underneath your knees, kind of sort of making it look like a hospital bed, like taking your back out of extension. It should actually feel pretty comfortable. That's a very good position to fall asleep in. You can get good, nice, deep breathing. I would say at least try to fall asleep in that position, and then you can always turn and do as you please throughout the night. Sleeping on your side, very common. Well, that's when you want to put the pillow between the knees, and if it's a big body pillow, something that you can hug, just keeps you more neutral and aligned, and maybe gives you a little bit more comfort flipping off side to side. You do want to try and switch side to side as opposed to staying on one side all night. Some people say that they do sleep on one side all night and they get a lot of compression issues. Again, if you got something between your knees and something to keep you more fetal, more neutral, it's more comfortable to try a different position and go to the other side. What we kind of want to avoid is the sleeping on your stomach, which again will put you into a back extensive position. It adopts poor breathing mechanics. That's not really going to help you. It's not going to do you any favors. It's only going to limit what you can get into your rib cage and going to tighten up your back in the morning. So we just want to avoid back extensive positions, especially while we're sleeping. If you can be more of this curled up fetal, it's just a little bit better for your breathing, and you know, just less extension for the back. We're gonna do a lot of extension throughout our day. That's how it gets fatigued. That's how it gets tight. That's how it gets overworked. If we can give it a break, that would be good. So try to avoid sleeping on your stomach, and if you're gonna sleep on your side, hugging a pillow between your knees, and being more fetal is better. So that's that. Let's now talk about the real thing, which is obviously the brain, the thing that keeps us up at night. So what you want to do before you go to bed is practice some kind of mind calming, or some kind of sort of, you know, curfew of technologies, phones or TV, whatever it may be, because it's time to settle the mind down at a certain point leading up to your bed. You can't just get into bed and think it's going to happen. All right. TV, as I said, if there's something you want to watch, okay, but I recommend something that's going to put you in a positive mood, not too exciting, not aggravating, not very annoying. Let's stick to something that's pleasant, because it's just going to set your brain in a better place than if you're watching something that's like action, horror, whatnot. So that's with TV. And again, still kind of recommended that you maybe switch off 20-30 minutes before, maybe up to an hour before. But a phone in particular, I would really recommend putting away at a certain point leading up to your bedtime, because a phone is such instant information, so quick, easy access, and so many ideas and thoughts that could be flowing to your head. That's just going to disrupt you from sleeping and being in a calm state. And it's, chances are you're going to end up thinking of something you saw in the middle of the night, and that is not going to do you any favors. So putting your phone away at a certain point is very important, just because of the access to information. We're just so wired to just seeing the stuff, and then it leads us to, like I said, thoughts and ideas. You got to treat your brain like a child sometimes. So putting your phone away is very important for practicing mind calmingness before bedtime. Tasks for the next day, or going through your checklist the next day. Yay or nay, it depends on you. Sometimes I find that if I do a task, if I'm going through a task for the next day, or let's say if I'm working on an Instagram post that I'm going to post the next day and I'm doing the write-up for it, that sometimes tends to stimulate my brain a little bit too much, and then I'm like lying in bed, I'm like, oh God, I'm like ready to go almost. So that's not going to do me any favors. On the other hand, I find sometimes that programming for my athletes or clients for the next day, writing up the program, has actually helped sort of kind of, spew out any of the thoughts I need to get out, and then I'm actually ready for bed. It depends on you. Just be mindful of it. Again, treat your brain like a child. If you feel like, okay, well, that's actually kind of calmed me down and I feel really fulfilled and relaxed, now I can go to bed. But if it's something that requires some thought, maybe some research, maybe you're doubtful or confused about what you want to do, that might just be a little bit too stimulating for the brain. So being mindful in terms of doing your planning for the next day, or a checklist, or your tasks for the next day late at night, put a stop to it at a certain point, maybe when it's time to get ready for the bed. Okay, and the last thing for mind calming is in terms of how do we calm the mind, but I'm not actually going to talk about it now, we're going to talk about the very end, will be breathing. Breathing is the number one way to calm your mind. It's the number one way to settle down muscle tension instantly, and it is the number way to just settle down thoughts. Cliche, but it's what it is. It works. We just have to do it, and we have to get into it. And that's why I'm going to talk about a technique after I get through a few more things in terms of setting up good sleeping habits. Number 3, though, in terms of setting up good sleeping habits, is the art of setting up habits. Make a routine. This is very important. If you make a going to bed routine, a pre-sleep routine, that is more likely to sort of kickstart your brain into getting into that mode. Just like we have a pre-game routine or pre-competition routine to ramp us up. Those tend to help get our brain stimulated and in a way getting us ready for the intensity of a competition. We want to now do the opposite. We want to do something that will calm us down, or get us into the mode of calming us down, ready for a nice, long, deep sleep. Because remember, we are trying to get 8 hours, and who gets 8 hours these days? So, very important that we do that. Routine is just better. And the funny thing is, I found that now that I have a routine, when I don't follow it, of course my sleep is never as good as when I do follow it. When I follow my sleep routine, I end up getting a pretty solid night's sleep. So creating a routine, very important. For me, what does that consist of? We've eaten dinner, had my whatever dessert it is. I get my nighttime supplements, which I'm about to talk about next. Maybe have a tea to take that with. After I've done all that, I go brush my teeth, make sure my oral hygiene is awesome and in check. Brush, floss, mouthwash with salt water usually. Then in terms of facial moisturization, care, skincare, whatever, I even do is a little face moisturizer. That's important. Do whatever you enjoy. It's sedating. It just calms us down a little bit more, makes us a little bit more relaxed. So get your facials on and whatnot. And then after that, I usually go into my breathing practice. My wife might be watching TV, but I'll just be laying on the couch, laying super flat and just focusing on my good breath control and good rib cage expansion, which again I'll talk about at the end. So that's my nighttime routine. Find what works for you, and whatever 20-30 minute little thing just to sort of really settle you down is gonna be that much better and easier to sleep, and might even get you longer bouts of sleep throughout the night. That being said, how can we influence longer, deeper sleep? Well, supplementation. What I want to talk about next. There's a couple of things that we'll talk in terms of calming. Melatonin is usually the best one in terms of helping you get to sleep. Very popular. Don't overdo it. I would say in moderation is usually best. Some people even get drowsy, so you know, find what works for you, but melatonin seems to be pretty good. In addition to melatonin, which is very popular, I would recommend 5-HTP, which, there we go, we're just gonna hold the bottle for you right there, 5-HTP. This is just recommended because it just further helps facilitate a calm mood. It helps with serotonin production, that boosts positive mood. It's considered an amino acid, so it's completely healthy and safe to take. It's just a protein basically for brain chemical that you're naturally producing already. It's not anything, it's not a happy drug. Whatever you're going through in life is what's gonna influence your thoughts. It's just maybe something that can help you just get a little bit calmer, therefore optimal to take at night with the melatonin. In addition to, though, I would always recommend taking certain things that are going to help with anti-inflammatory properties, not necessarily an ibuprofen. I would say more just natural anti-inflammatories. So with that said, a magnesium or a vitamin D, potentially, because we're all deficient in vitamin D, and particularly in wintertime, we want to be upping the dosages, and or maybe omega-3 fish oil, which as another essential thing we should be taking. In terms of brands, whatever works for you, cheapness, you know, if whatever you can afford, but I do recommend going for brands that third-party test their products. Basically, they call in somebody to say, hey, test our stuff, verify it, they're cool, and then they put a seal of approval. In particular, if you look at this brand, which is called Nordic Naturals, somewhat commonly available. I have an omega-3 and a vitamin D that I take in them. Here, as you can see, they have this little gold seal. That is a third-party tested seal, so that way you know their stuff is legitimate. Alternatively, if you want a more mainstream brand, I know Nature's Made is a pretty common and mainstream brand, corporate brand. They actually pay to have somebody third-party test their stuff, so you know their stuff is legitimate. Just food for thought, because there are some, you want to be putting your money into good stuff, and so it's good to know that these products are more legitimate in that sense, have been tested. Okay, like I said, with supplementation, we're going to go next into digestion, which is another factor that inhibits sleep. So that's why I like to take my supplements with a tea, usually some kind of a ginger tea, and I add apple cider vinegar to it. That usually helps digestion because it got probiotics and acid to break down whatever's in your gut. So whether you do that, I really recommend diluted apple cider vinegar in some sorts for digestion, but ginger is also good, or any kind of tea, something to just really help, because if we eat particularly late, that's gonna be a lot of work, and that's gonna keep you up at night. I find that digestion is what usually is a big factor that wakes me up. Sometimes because I ate too late, and sometimes because meals are heavy and harder to digest, ate too much meat, whatever it might be. That's why I want to throw in some kind of probiotic or tea or something, just to help stuff break down easier and not keep me up at night with whatever's going on. All right, just another thing to be aware of. That's why they always say don't eat too late. Going into now one of the biggest factors of breathing misfunction, and something that we all suffer from throughout the night, which is jaw tension. So if you want to know more about the jaw, go check out my jaw workshop I've previously done. I go into some detail and some good exercises to how to release the jaw. However, this is what we need to know. First of all, we tend to have overcrowded teeth and our jaws do not align. Problem A. Problem B is because of over clenching and overuse to one side, we have a misalignment along with the teeth not really being aligned, causing further misalignment. That at night is what results in this grinding of the teeth that we have. Okay? So furthermore, why is that even happening? Well, the brain, believe it or not, needs some reassurance. It needs to know where it is in life at all times, conscious or subconscious. When we're conscious, usually it's our feet on the floor, or our hands, what we're doing, our fiddly, you know, all that stuff. This is our brain just kind of telling us where we are at in space and time. At night, we're not doing that. We're fast asleep. Our feet are also not connected to the ground. So the result is a little bit of extra over-referencing at the jaw, which is just about the most powerful reference to our brain that we already have. Then when we already have these problems of our teeth not being aligned because of overcrowding, our jaw clenching to one side, so further misalignment, that is what causes this basic technological malfunction of grinding and our teeth going back and forth, grinding, bruxing. It's just because our brain's almost just trying to find that nice alignment. I'm not going to get into how to fix that because, yeah, some people might, need to get dental work. I'm not going to talk about that. Check out my TMJ workshop. What's more important to know is if we're doing this, our airway is actually being narrowed, and then we're going to struggle with breathing. Furthermore, if we already have poor breathing patterns, we get what we have: sleep apnea, snoring, and those kind of problems. So this is how the TMJ jaw stuff is actually all related to our breathing. And actually, whether you're snoring, grinding your teeth, or waking up frequently, have sleep apnea, it's actually all a breathing problem. Some of it just might be related to some jaw alignment issues. Although we cannot easily correct jaw alignment, tooth alignment, what we can do is just make sure we're not overly clenching and we have good breath mechanics. Because when we don't have good breath mechanics, we will overly clench, okay? Before we get into the breath mechanics, I'm gonna teach you a nice little facial release that you could do before bed and perhaps relax some of these jaw muscles. Maybe it'll calm down and not be so tight, but be more mindful that it's the breathing that's more likely to bring about good patterns that'll fix the clenching that actually happens throughout nights. Nevertheless, this is what you should do. Just make sure your fingers have a little bit of lotion, and you're just gonna pull to the side. You can use 2 fingers, 1 fingers, or maybe even knuckles. We're gonna start at the forehead, firm pressure, push down the skin, and just pull out to the side. And you're trying to peel along the bone, pretty firm pressure, and just put a nice stretch on the skin. And then you're gonna move down, pull, firm pressure, work all up along the bone, and just clearing all of that skin along the bone. Especially be detailed with the temples. This is really important for the TMJ. That is part of the TMJ, temporal mandibular joint. So if we got a lot of tension, we need to release there. Make sure we go along the eyebrows one time. Okay. Get this orbital ridge. Take your time with it. I'm going a little bit faster right now, but you can take your time with it. Make sure you work under the ridge, digging under, clear everything that's on the bone. Take your time with it. Pull all the way out to your ears. Okay. Now start taking your time as you hit your cheek muscles. Very important. Those will often be overworked and probably have some tenderness there. Oh yeah, especially for my right side. Push all the way out. Now you're working down just above the lips. Again, really get into those cheekbones. Push it all the way out. Underneath. I'm going faster than normal just because I'm just trying to get through this. But you guys should be, take it as slow as you want. On the chin line, one time. Push all the way up to your ears. And then one time, just underneath your chin, pull out and up. There you go. And yeah, that's nicely relaxed my face, opened up my jaw a bit. If I just opened, I felt some nice cracking. So yeah, just a little something, little facial release. Ease up the jaw. Hopefully you can go to bed without at least so much of a tight jaw. But then again, if you wake up with a tight jaw, you could also do this facial release then. It'll alleviate some of that tension for you. The most important part now, if you've made it this far, thank you, is let's talk about breathing. This is so important because this is what tends to go wrong. This is where it all falls apart. And if you notice anybody that snores, what usually tends to be is that the pace of the snore, it usually gets faster, faster, faster until they have that sort of like a hiccup and almost maybe wake themselves up or not. So what you need to be mindful of, and you might fall back into this pattern throughout the night, that's okay. You might brucks and grind throughout the night, that's okay. But at least the more you're gonna be consistent with going to bed, reminding yourself of the good things of not being clenched, good breathing patterns, getting full breaths, you'll be more likely to sort of utilize those good things for that much more of the time as you're asleep and maybe get yourself some deeper sleep. That's where I found really that the breathing before, the breath work before I sleep has helped me so much just because I guess it just allows me to get into a deeper sleep for longer bouts as well. So this is what we want to talk about, is pace. It's all about pace and air flow. Pace and air flow. So slow it down, get everything out first of all, because you can't get air in until you get everything out. So long exhalations first of all, then pause. Don't just breathe in right away, pause. That little extra pause just helps facilitate and get further of that, a little bit of that excess carbon dioxide out of our lungs, or I should be doing this way because it comes up. And you're just not just gasping in for air, you're actually truly filtering everything out. And like I said, because then you will be able to nicely breathe in a lot more oxygen once you get everything out. The problem is oftentimes we're not getting enough oxygen in. It's just we haven't filtered out enough of the crap that's in there, carbon dioxide, to get in more oxygen. We will get it in after we get it out. But you gotta slow it down, you gotta take your time with it. So long exhales, short little pause, don't suffocate, just like a 2-3 second pause, and then a long inhale. Fill it up all the way. However, we want to be mindful we're not just sucking in air as tight as possible, because that's going to use a lot of these neck muscles, and sometimes we're going to use a lot of this more nasal suction. That's more likely to lead to this snoring pattern. We want to use our diaphragm from the bottom up and fill all through out. And that's something that we're just not naturally doing. Naturally, our breath rate is way faster, and that is how we tend to go to bed. Sleep is so important because it sets us for the day, but what we do throughout the day sets us through the night. And again, if you're not slowing down your breath rate at any point, initially you put your bed on a pillow and you just listen to your breath rate, you'll just notice like, oh man, it's just way faster than it needs to be. Settle it down, and this is what we're gonna do to actually get it settled down. I usually prefer to get in an optimal position on the floor. I like to have my feet grounded, preferably as I'm doing this. I like to have my back flat, and I wanna have one hand on my stomach, one hand on my chest. This is usually just optimal because then I can feel the activation of my diaphragm, and I can feel the rising of the air, of the chest and the air filling throughout. That's important. Having your feet on the ground is just important, giving your brain just a sense of contact. allows your jaw to relax, and it just allows your back to be flat. So that's why I wouldn't do the breathing in bed per se. I would do this on a smooth surface where I can just focus on technique. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. I would do a breathing exercise from anything from 5 to 10. Sometimes I'm done at 15 minutes. It depends. It can even be very enjoyable and sedating. So I choose to get into the flow. Once I'm in my flow state, actually, I tend to choose to go on. But you really just need five or so minutes to just kind of really settle everything down. But the point is, don't put a timer on it. Kind of get into it. Enjoy it. Learn to get deeper, slower, longer breaths. Learn to enjoy that. Don't do it just for the sake of doing it, but try to get in tune with it. As they say, connecting with yourself, connecting with your body, connecting with your breath. So let me give you a demonstration, okay? So, like I said, you want to be flat on the floor, okay? Feet preferably on contact on the floor. I usually just think that's better, just because it gives you your feet reference on the floor, brain give you a brain contact with the floor. Very important. Relax your jaw, because we're trying to set up these good habits. So as you're doing this, just make sure you're always checking in that your jaw is nice and relaxed, okay? One hand on the chest and one hand on the stomach right here, okay? And here we go, we're gonna go nose as much as possible, okay? So, exhale, pause before you breathe in, inhale. Right, hands rise, exhale. Hands drop down, pause before you breathe in. Inhale, stomach hand first. Chest hand second. Exhale. They drop together, pause before you breathe in. One hand and the other. Exhale, drop together. Pause before you breathe in, relax the jaw. Exhale, drop them together. Pause before you breathe in. Now, slowly inhale, stomach hand first, chest second. So it's really important that you're going, don't force the inhale. After you get rid of everything, it's nice and lightly. Stomach first, then chest, then exhale through, okay? If you find that you are not getting full enough breaths, it sometimes helps, and this is a nice little tip for you, sometimes helps to plug your right nostril. So you just take your right thumb, plug your right nostril, slow down, accept it, just be nice and calm, breathe in through the left all the way, breathe out through the left all the way. Reason being is we predominantly use our right nostril, and so naturally your left has just gotten a little lazy, and so if you feel like you're not getting enough airflow in just by doing that, just plug that right one and do 5 breaths and then take that right away, and you should feel like you're then getting a lot fuller air into your lungs, a lot better airflow through your nasal passages. A nice little tip there in terms of just opening everything up and just getting more air into the lungs. Do that, like I said, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. Get into it. Slow your pace down. The key is slowing our breath rate down. We take 22,000 plus breaths a day. Your goal ultimately is to lessen that number as much as possible, because when we're stressed and on the go in life, that number is only going to be higher. The lower you can bring it, the more calm you will be, the more deep sleep you'll be able to get, the more longer bouts of sleep you'll be able to get, and so forth. So the key really is breathing, and unfortunately we're creatures of bad habits, and we just need to remind ourselves of the good ones because that's who we are. So that's what I'm here to do. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully you've picked up some pretty good habits to help you sleep. Remember, at the end of the day, it is all about the mind and controlling the mind. And how do we do that? Well, we got to set us up with some nice breathing, because hand in hand, when this goes in chaos, the breathing tends to go in chaos. So, start with that. Let me know how it goes. Shoot me any comments if you have any questions or things that you need to know more about. I'll be happy to answer from you. I love hearing from you. If you want me to cover anything in the future, shoot me a message. I'd love to. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you as always for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.